Own the relationship is practical advice for podcasters that works today. But it might not work tomorrow in a world with less guesswork about what people want from their podcasts. Hello and welcome to another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. So Spotify and Pandora are coming into podcasting with more than just bags of money. They're coming with bags of data scientists and fiduciary responsibility to make money. That's going to upset our little apple cart we have here in podcasting. Allow me to explain. You know, we have a lot of choice as podcasters. We choose what we want to say, how we want to say it. Some podcasters with large enough audiences get to pick and choose who they want to have on their show as advertisers. I guess everybody who is ultimately podcasting for money gets to have a choice in that. And of course, listeners get to choose what they want to listen to. But this is about us, the working podcasters, not the listeners. Even though everything we do is for the listeners. I totally get the irony of what I'm saying right here. But right now, we're guessing a lot. We really are guessing a lot because we don't have a lot of the, data necessary to make some solid decisions. As we know, nothing new about that. It's been that way for 16 years. We put content out, try and get people to subscribe, check to see whether or not the episodes were downloaded, go about our business. We have advertisers come into our show. They give us a special coupon code that's unique to our show, count the number of times it was downloaded, and then see how many of those coupons show up over at their site. Pretty simple. And that is enabled by a direct relationship. Direct relationship with advertisers, direct relationship with listeners, all of that. But I do worry that model is not going to be around forever, like very soon perhaps, whatever that means, because of what our friends at Spotify and Pandora might actually do to the space. You can decry it as a problem all you want, that's fine. I just want to talk about the possible ramifications. And here's what it is. Both of those apps are really good at keeping you listening to that app, continuing to serve content to you through those apps so that you stay listening on those apps without having to jump around and do other things. And it's not just, once in a while listening. It's kind of nonstop. The app behaves differently depending on your mood, your styles, your interests, everything. It's all nice and customizable to keep you going through and listening. For all of our efforts to try and do that in podcasting, they've all tended to fail. We're just not really good at keeping people listening. If we got really compelling content, people will continue to listen. I know I've binged entire weekends, but I didn't really have any support from the app I was using to do that. And in fact, it seems like a lot of the efforts in apps these days are all about putting the choice in the hands of the listener to what they are choosing to listen to within content they've already subscribed to, whatever subscribed means these days. We've decried the problem with discovery for the longest time, and our apps are designed more for power users than they are for regular people trying to get through all of this stuff. So that direct relationship that I mentioned, again, there's two different ways of this. You direct relationship with your advertisers, if in fact you're an advertiser brand, or if you're a direct relationship with your listeners. I think a lot of that is changing. I think even the direct relationship that we have for extra content, bonus content that we put out through these private feeds, I think that might even be impacted when the data scientists from Spotify and Pandora come along and look at what real consumption looks like and look at what all of the other content that's not being listened to, not being streamed, that was presented. Why not? All of those pieces of information are going to come together. The ultimate goal of that is to make sure people continue listening to content on those apps, which is very different than what we have as podcasters with our goal and objective, which is to keep people listening to our content as much as possible. So that's a difference. And we can try and fight that. We can try and own the direct relationship. We can try and keep pushing people to subscribe on our favorite preferred app. But I don't really think it's going to work. Honestly. It's kind of an inevitability that a company like a Spotify and a Pandora, now we have both of them coming into play, are going to help make those decisions for us. They're going to become the better app, not necessarily the better app for power users. Those of us that have been doing it for dozens of years, or a dozen years, you can be dozens, not around that long yet, Evo, or 16 years, we're different. These new masses are very happy to let the systems work. Let them make recommendations. It's already happening on advertising as well. We just heard about some new great big deals that Spotify's landing. Pandora's going to do the same exact thing. And they're going to want to appease those advertisers because it's a revenue source for them. They might even, I don't think it's a far cry to assume that these companies, Spotify's and the Pandoras, wouldn't incentivize content creators, that's us podcasters, to make the kind of content that is ad-friendly, that advertisers want to advertise on. So they have more inventory to sell, and they, in turn, would share some of those revenues with us. A model that's already well established in other places. Less guesswork, less direct relationship, more reliance on the data. More reliance on the data for the listeners to figure out what they should be listening to. More reliance on data from podcasters like us to determine what sorts of content we should be creating so that we can maximize our revenue. So now instead of that direct relationship with listeners or advertisers, our direct relationship might be with Spotify and Pandora, which is a different model. And if you say, well, hey, that's fine. I'm happy to let all of those monies flow into those places. I'm going to keep my direct relationship. You might not keep your direct relationship with your advertisers because it's going to be easier, less friction for them to go spend their monies directly with the Spotifys and the Pandoras. It's easier to spend more money. It's better to spend more money for there. So your direct relationships that you have with advertisers might dry up. Your direct relationship with listeners might change when Spotify and or Pandora are making suggestions of other content that's better than yours. Just think about that for a moment. Think about what that actually might mean. What happens when the direct relationship that we have fought so hard for in podcasting is disappeared? It's definitely worth pondering. And hence why it is the subject of podcast pontifications. Now, I know this is a challenging thing to think about, and you might need help thinking through it with someone. You still have a direct relationship with your friends who are also podcasters. I would appreciate it if you would share this episode with them, even if you think me a crazy person. It's good to have the conversation. So share this episode. Helping spread the message about podcast pontifications to other podcasters while you're at it is always appreciated. And if you would like to still give me some direct support while it is available, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/EvoTerra and buy me a coffee. Monthly contributions are available since the show does not run advertising. And unless Spotify comes with bags of money for me, probably not happening anytime soon. So again, buymeacoffee.com/EvoTerra. That's it. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. I shall be back tomorrow with yet another podcast pontifications. Cheers.